What if the fear of failure isn't just a barrier, but a misunderstood guidepost? Could it be that embracing failure, rather than fleeing from it, is the key to achieving true resilience and clarity in life? The modern struggle with failure. In our fast-paced world, where success is often glorified and failure vilified, the fear of falling short has become an omnipresent shadow. We live in a time where achievements are showcased as trophies on social media, often creating an illusion of perfection. Platforms like Instagram and LinkedIn perpetuate a curated narrative of constant success, while the reality of hard work, setbacks, and perseverance remains hidden. This disparity fosters a fear of failure so profound that it can immobilize us, making even the smallest risks seem overwhelming. Mistakes, once considered valuable lessons, are now viewed as stains on an otherwise spotless reputation. This perception strips away not only the willingness to try, but also the joy of the journey itself. In careers, relationships, and personal growth, the looming threat of failure whispers, "What if you're not good enough?" This question echoes in the minds of many, stifling creativity and innovation. However, this struggle is far from unique to modern times. Centuries ago, the Stoics, philosophers who thrived amidst the challenges of their eras, wrestled with these very fears. They lived in a world no less turbulent than ours, facing political upheaval, personal losses, and societal expectations. Yet, their teachings offer a blueprint for navigating failure with wisdom and grace. Take Seneca, for instance. This Roman philosopher and statesman experienced immense highs and devastating lows, including exile and eventual forced suicide. Yet his writings, such as Letters to Lucilius, convey a profound understanding of resilience. Seneca argued that failure is not inherently damaging, rather, it is our interpretation of it that causes suffering. He wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." Epictetus, who began life as a slave and rose to prominence as a teacher of philosophy, emphasized the importance of focusing on what is within our control. According to him, external events, including failure, are beyond our influence. What matters is how we respond. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters, he taught. This insight shifts the narrative. Failure is no longer a definitive endpoint, but a challenge that tests our inner strength. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and author of Meditations, faced immense pressure throughout his reign. He dealt with wars, plagues, and political intrigue, yet his writings reveal a mindset focused on perseverance. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength, he advised. For Marcus, failure was a natural part of life's complexity, a chance to exercise virtue and resilience. These Stoic philosophers remind us that fear of failure is deeply rooted in human experience, yet it can be overcome. They viewed failure not as a condemnation, but as an opportunity for growth. Their wisdom is especially relevant today, as we navigate a culture that often equates self-worth with success. By reframing our understanding of failure, we can break free from its paralyzing grip. Imagine a society where failure is celebrated as a stepping stone to success. In such a world, individuals would approach challenges with curiosity rather than trepidation. This shift in mindset could unlock untapped potential, fostering innovation and resilience on a scale we've never seen. By embracing the Stoic perspective, we can begin to dismantle the modern struggle with failure, transforming it into a catalyst for personal and collective growth. The Stoics teach us that the fear of failure is not insurmountable. It is a product of our perception, and perception can be changed. When we stop viewing failure as an enemy and start seeing it as a teacher, we reclaim our ability to live fully and authentically. In doing so, we don't just overcome our fear. We rediscover the joy and freedom that come with trying, learning, and growing. The Stoic perspective on failure. To the Stoics, failure was not a catastrophe, but an inevitable and natural aspect of life. They believed it was a moment of growth, not a permanent judgment of one's character. In their view, the way we perceive and respond to failure defines its impact on our lives, not the failure itself. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most prominent Stoic philosophers and a Roman emperor, captured this concept succinctly in his Meditations. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This principle shifts the focus away from external outcomes, which are often beyond our control, and places it squarely on our internal responses. In this light, failure is stripped of its paralyzing power. Instead, it becomes a neutral event, a stepping stone to learn, adapt, and grow. Epictetus and the mastery of perspective. Epictetus, another great Stoic philosopher, is a compelling embodiment of resilience in the face of adversity. Born a slave in the Roman Empire, he endured severe physical hardships, including a permanent disability caused by mistreatment. Despite these challenges, Epictetus rose to prominence, becoming one of the most respected teachers of philosophy in his time. For Epictetus, failure was not a reflection of inherent inadequacy, but a reflection of misplaced priorities or misunderstandings about control. His philosophy is grounded in the idea of separating what is within our power, our thoughts, actions, and attitudes, from what is not, such as other people's opinions, external events, or even our own failures. He famously stated, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This perspective is liberating. It reframes failure not as a definitive verdict on our worth, but as a circumstance that invites reflection and growth. By focusing on effort rather than outcomes, we reclaim agency over our lives and free ourselves from the paralyzing fear of falling short. Tabasher, Marcus Aurelius, turning adversity into virtue. Marcus Aurelius provides another powerful example of how Stoic principles can be applied to overcome the fear of failure. As a Roman emperor, Marcus faced immense challenges, including wars, plagues, and political conspiracies. Yet, in the face of overwhelming external pressures, he maintained a mindset of composure and determination. In his Meditations, Marcus reminds himself that failure is a part of life's natural order. Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight. He recognized that failures, whether personal, professional, or societal, are opportunities to exercise virtues such as patience, courage, and wisdom. By viewing setbacks as a chance to cultivate inner strength, Marcus Aurelius teaches us to embrace failure rather than fear it. His example demonstrates that resilience is not about avoiding challenges, but about facing them with integrity and purpose. Seneca, on learning from failure. Seneca, a Roman statesman and Stoic philosopher, offers yet another perspective on failure's role in personal development. He wrote extensively about the inevitability of setbacks and how they can serve as tools for self-improvement. In his letters, Seneca advises his protege Lucilius to welcome challenges, stating, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." For Seneca, failure was an essential part of the human experience. He believed it was through adversity that individuals could refine their character, gain wisdom, and grow closer to their potential. His writings encourage us to treat failure as a mirror, reflecting both our limitations and opportunities for growth. For practical Stoic tools for overcoming fear of failure. Stoicism offers practical techniques for reframing failure, transforming it from a source of anxiety into a powerful teacher. 1. Negative visualization, premeditatio malorum. This Stoic exercise involves mentally rehearsing potential failures or challenges before they occur. By imagining worst-case scenarios, we prepare ourselves emotionally and reduce the shock of setbacks. This practice doesn't foster pessimism. Rather, it cultivates resilience by helping us realize that even the worst outcomes are often manageable. 2. Dichotomy of control. A cornerstone of Stoicism, this concept teaches us to focus on what we can control, our actions, decisions, and attitudes, while letting go of what we cannot, such as other people's opinions or uncontrollable events. By concentrating on effort rather than results, we can pursue our goals without being paralyzed by the fear of failure. 3. Journaling. Both Seneca and Marcus Aurelius used journaling as a tool for self-reflection. Writing about failures allows us to analyze them objectively, identify lessons, and develop strategies for improvement. This practice turns setbacks into valuable learning experiences. 4. Cultivating virtue. Stoicism emphasizes the importance of virtues such as courage, patience, and wisdom. Each failure is an opportunity to practice these traits, turning a perceived loss into a moment of moral and personal growth. In today's world where perfection is often idealized, Stoic teachings provide a much-needed antidote to the fear of failure. They remind us that setbacks are not obstacles, but stepping stones on the path to self-discovery. By embracing the Stoic mindset, we can view failure not as a catastrophe, but as a natural part of life's journey. Epictetus taught us to focus on our efforts. Marcus Aurelius demonstrated that even the most challenging circumstances can be met with grace. Seneca reminded us that trials refine and strengthen us. Together, their wisdom empowers us to face failure with courage and clarity. When we internalize these lessons, failure loses its power to define or diminish us. Instead, it becomes a source of resilience, a teacher of humility, and a guide toward becoming the best versions of ourselves. As Marcus Aurelius so aptly wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Failure, when viewed through the lens of Stoicism, is not the end, but the beginning of something greater, a chance to grow, evolve, and live with purpose. Cato the Younger, a paragon of Stoic resilience. Cato the Younger, a Roman statesman and Stoic philosopher, embodies the Stoic principles of resilience, virtue, and unwavering commitment to one's values, regardless of external circumstances. His life, defined by political strife and moral steadfastness, offers profound lessons on how to navigate failure, adversity, and the erosion of one's ideals. Cato's background and early life. Born in 95 BCE into an aristocratic family, Cato was heavily influenced by Stoic philosophy from a young age. His early life was shaped by the traditions of Roman republicanism, which prioritized civic duty, moral integrity, and the welfare of the republic above personal ambition. Cato's father died when he was young, and he was raised by his uncle, the famous orator Marcus Porcius Cato. This environment fostered a strong sense of duty and virtue, which would later characterize his political career. Cato's commitment to Stoicism is evident in his personal habits and behavior. He lived simply, often dressing plainly, and adhering to the moral codes of the Stoic philosophers. He believed that virtue was the only true good, and that external circumstances, such as wealth or power, were neither inherently valuable nor worth pursuing if they compromised one's integrity. In a world where ambition and self-interest often drove individuals to betray their ideals, Cato's steadfastness in the face of temptation made him a rare and revered figure. Political struggles and the fall of the Republic. Cato's political career unfolded against the backdrop of the Roman Republic's decline. The Republic, once a model of balanced governance, was slipping into chaos, with corruption, civil unrest, and the rise of autocratic leaders threatening its survival. Cato stood firmly opposed to the growing influence of powerful individuals such as Julius Caesar, Pompey, and Crassus, whom he saw as threats to the Republic's republican values. Cato's resistance to Julius Caesar in particular is perhaps his most famous stand. While Caesar sought to consolidate power through military conquest and political manipulation, Cato remained an unyielding force against his rise. As the leader of the Senate's conservative faction, Cato fought for the preservation of the Republic, advocating for a return to traditional Roman values and constitutional checks on power. However, despite his efforts, the political tide was turning, and the Republic's demise seemed inevitable. Cato's dedication to the cause of the Republic led to a series of defeats. He was a vocal critic of Caesar's rise to power and opposed the reforms that Caesar championed. When Caesar crossed the Rubicon in 49 BCE, marking the start of the Civil War, Cato remained loyal to the Senate and fought for the preservation of the Republic even when victory seemed impossible. His resistance, however, was futile. Caesar's forces prevailed, and Cato's faction was defeated. The Stoic resilience in the face of defeat. Despite the political defeats and the eventual collapse of the Republic, Cato's resilience remained unshaken. His commitment to Stoic philosophy guided him through personal and political failure. For the Stoic, external events are outside of one's control, but how one responds to them is of paramount importance. Cato's response to the fall of the Republic exemplifies this principle. Rather than compromising his values for the sake of political survival, Cato chose to stand firm in his beliefs, even at great personal cost. His refusal to accept a life under Caesar's rule or to bend his principles for the sake of convenience ultimately led to his tragic end. In 46 BCE, after the defeat of the last resistance to Caesar's power, Cato took his own life in Utica, refusing to live under what he saw as a tyrant's regime. His final act was one of defiance, rooted in his belief that living in accordance with one's principles, no matter the external circumstances, was the highest form of virtue. Cato's death, rather than being seen as an act of desperation, was viewed by many of his contemporaries and later generations as the ultimate demonstration of Stoic resolve. He maintained his integrity even in the face of the greatest adversity, refusing to submit to Caesar's rule or compromise his ideals for the sake of self-preservation. His decision to end his life was not a sign of weakness, but rather a final assertion of his autonomy and adherence to Stoic principles. The legacy of Cato, the Younger. Cato's life and death have had a lasting impact on Stoic thought and on the way resilience is understood. His unwavering commitment to virtue in the face of failure and personal loss demonstrates that the measure of a person's character is not determined by their external success or the victories they achieve, but by how they respond to the challenges they face. Cato's legacy is one of integrity. He is remembered not for his political victories, but for his unyielding commitment to the values he held dear. In a world where power and influence often come at the cost of virtue, Cato stands as a model of Stoic resilience, showing that the pursuit of integrity is more important than any external success. The Stoic resilience Cato demonstrated is a lesson for all who face failure or adversity. It teaches that while we cannot control the outcomes of our efforts, we can control our response to them. By maintaining our integrity and adherence to our principles, we can face any challenge with courage and honor, knowing that in the end, it is our character that defines us, not our successes or failures. Cato the Younger's life and death are a testament to the power of Stoic resilience. His refusal to compromise his principles in the face of overwhelming odds teaches us that failure does not define us. It is our response to failure that shapes our legacy. Cato's story serves as a powerful reminder that integrity, courage, and commitment to virtue are the true measures of success in life, and that resilience, not immediate success, is the hallmark of a life well lived. Shifting perspectives. Failure as feedback in the context of Stoicism and modern psychology. One of the central tenets of Stoic philosophy is the ability to shift one's perspective on challenges and setbacks. The Stoics recognize that external events, such as failure, are beyond our control, but our reaction to them is what truly shapes our lives. By reframing failure not as something to fear or avoid, but as an opportunity for growth, the Stoics found a path to resilience and tranquility in the face of adversity. This Stoic approach to failure has found a parallel in modern psychology, particularly through the concept of the growth mindset, introduced by psychologist Carol Dweck. The ideas from both Stoicism and contemporary psychology offer profound insights on how we can view failure, not as a defeat, but as valuable feedback for improvement and growth. Carol Dweck and the growth mindset. Carol Dweck's pioneering research on mindsets has revolutionized the way we understand success and failure. In her work, Dweck contrasts two types of mindsets, the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. A fixed mindset is characterized by the belief that abilities and intelligence are static and unchangeable, leading individuals to avoid challenges for fear of failure. On the other hand, those with a growth mindset believe that abilities can be developed through effort, learning, and perseverance. For them, failure is not a reflection of their inherent limitations, but rather an opportunity to learn and improve. This aligns strikingly with Stoic teachings. The Stoics, particularly figures like Epictetus and Seneca, taught that we cannot control external events or the outcomes of our actions. However, we can control our responses. Rather than seeing failure as a reason for self-doubt, they saw it as a chance to strengthen the mind, just as physical exercise strengthens the body. In this sense, failure becomes a stepping stone, not an obstacle. When viewed through the lens of the growth mindset, failure is not a definitive statement about a person's abilities, but rather feedback on what needs to change or improve in order to progress. Seneca and the power of adversity. Seneca, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, often emphasized the transformative power of adversity. In his letter to Lucilius, Seneca writes, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." This idea encapsulates the Stoic belief that challenges and failures should not be seen as punishments, but rather as opportunities for growth. When we face difficulties, they have the potential to reveal what we are truly capable of. Like physical exercise, mental and emotional exertion during tough times can lead to greater resilience, adaptability, and wisdom. Seneca's perspective teaches us that resilience isn't born from smooth sailing or easy victories, but from navigating difficulties. Every challenge we face has the potential to make us more capable and to refine our character. This is not to say that adversity is easy, or that it doesn't hurt. The Stoics acknowledge that setbacks, pain, and loss are an inevitable part of life. However, by training our minds to view these hardships as opportunities for growth, we can turn adversity into a powerful force for personal transformation. Chapter 3: Thomas Edison's Perspective on Failure. One of the most famous examples of this Stoic approach to failure is the attitude of Thomas Edison towards his work on inventing the light bulb. Edison is often quoted as saying, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This quote perfectly embodies the Stoic resilience that turns failure into a positive learning experience. For Edison, each failure was not a final verdict on his ability or an obstacle to be avoided, but an essential part of the process. His willingness to persist, despite repeated setbacks, is a testament to his belief in the value of failure as a form of feedback, showing him what didn't work and helping him refine his approach until he eventually succeeded. Edison's mindset mirrors the growth mindset of modern psychology. He understood that every failure was an opportunity for feedback, an indication of what needed to be altered or improved in his approach. Similarly, the Stoics believed that each failure, each setback, is an opportunity to practice virtue, to learn how to remain calm, rational, and focused on the bigger picture. In both Edison's case and the Stoic tradition, failure becomes an essential ingredient for eventual success, rather than an insurmountable barrier. Reframing failure in our own lives. The modern-day application of Stoic philosophy, paired with the principles of the growth mindset, can have a profound impact on how we approach challenges in our own lives. Whether in personal endeavors, careers, or relationships, we are all bound to face failure at some point. The key is not to let these failures define us, but to shift our perspective so that we can extract value from them. For instance, imagine someone who has been passed over for a job promotion. From a fixed mindset perspective, this could be seen as a permanent reflection of one's inadequacies, leading to feelings of frustration or self-doubt. However, applying the principles of Stoicism and the growth mindset, we can view this setback as feedback. What skills or knowledge were lacking? Was there an opportunity to improve communication or leadership abilities? What lessons can be learned that will make us more prepared for the next opportunity? In the same way, if someone faces personal struggles, be it in health, relationships, or other areas, adopting a Stoic perspective allows them to acknowledge the difficulty without becoming overwhelmed by it. Instead of viewing hardship as an insurmountable obstacle, we can embrace it as an opportunity for growth. By responding to failure with resilience and the determination to learn, we can cultivate inner strength, much like the Stoics advocated. The transformative power of failure. Both Stoicism and modern psychology share a deep belief in the transformative power of failure. By reframing failure as feedback, we allow ourselves to develop resilience, improve our skills, and grow into better versions of ourselves. Just as a body becomes stronger through exercise, the mind becomes more resilient and capable through the consistent application of lessons learned from failure. Failure, when seen through the lens of Stoic philosophy and the growth mindset, is no longer something to fear or avoid, but rather an essential part of the journey toward greater wisdom, achievement, and personal fulfillment. Like Edison, we can learn to embrace failure as an integral part of success, finding value in each attempt and using it as a springboard to greater accomplishment. In the end, both Stoicism and modern psychology teach us that failure does not have to be a source of shame or discouragement. Rather, it is an opportunity to deepen our understanding, refine our efforts, and continue our pursuit of personal growth. By shifting our perspective on failure, we unlock the potential for greater achievement, resilience, and ultimately, peace of mind. Practical Stoic tools to overcome the fear of failure. Stoicism, far from being an abstract philosophy, offers a treasure trove of practical tools for managing life's challenges. Among the most common human struggles is the fear of failure, an emotion that can paralyze us, inhibit progress, and prevent us from realizing our potential. Fortunately, Stoicism provides a robust framework to confront and dismantle this fear. Below are some of the most effective Stoic techniques that can help us navigate the fear of failure and move forward with resilience and calm. 1. Negative visualization, premeditatio malorum. One of the most powerful tools in the Stoic arsenal for overcoming the fear of failure is negative visualization, or premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. This technique involves actively imagining potential failures and their possible consequences. It may seem counterintuitive, but by visualizing the worst-case scenario, you begin to prepare yourself mentally for it. How it works. Reduce emotional reaction. When you anticipate a failure, your emotional response to the event diminishes. By acknowledging the worst outcome, you take away much of its power and lessen the fear of the unknown. Prepare rationally. You also prepare yourself to respond rationally in the face of failure. What might seem like a disaster in the moment can become a manageable setback once you've already thought about how you would deal with it. Practice acceptance. This exercise helps you accept that failure is not catastrophic, but rather a normal part of life. Stoic thinkers like Seneca and Epictetus often wrote about the importance of recognizing that misfortune is inevitable and should be met with grace and composure. For example, before embarking on a big project or taking on a new challenge, You can imagine the potential for things to go wrong. What would happen if the project failed, how you would respond, and what you could learn from the experience. In doing so, you remove some of the sting of failure and put yourself in a mindset to face challenges with clarity. 2. Focus on what you can control. A central Stoic principle is the distinction between what is within our control and what is outside of it. Epictetus, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers, famously taught that we should focus only on what we can control, our own thoughts, actions, and responses, and let go of concerns about outcomes that are beyond our influence. How it works. Effort over outcome. The fear of failure often arises from worrying about the outcome, especially when the outcome is uncertain or beyond our control. In contrast, Stoicism encourages us to shift our focus to the process, doing our best, making the right decisions, and maintaining virtue. The result, according to Stoic thought, is irrelevant to our inner peace and moral character. Emotional resilience. By detaching ourselves from the outcome, we prevent ourselves from being crushed by failure. We learn to maintain our self-worth regardless of whether or not we succeed. Action-oriented mindset. Focusing on what you can control empowers you to take proactive steps. You no longer feel paralyzed by fear of failure because you know that your responsibility is to engage fully in the process, not to predict or control the results. For instance, when preparing for an important presentation or interview, rather than fixating on whether you'll succeed or fail, focus on the quality of your preparation, your clarity of communication, and the sincerity of your effort. The outcome is not within your power, but how well you perform in the moment is. 3. Journaling. Journaling is an essential Stoic practice that helps cultivate self-awareness, emotional regulation, and a balanced perspective on challenges. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most famous Stoic emperors, regularly wrote in his journal to reflect on his thoughts, actions, and the philosophical lessons he wanted to internalize. How it works. Self-reflection. Journaling allows you to reflect on your fears and failures in a structured way. By putting your thoughts on paper, you gain clarity and a greater sense of perspective. Instead of letting fear overwhelm you, you can analyze it, understand its root causes, and develop a rational response. Practice acceptance. By writing about your failures, you begin to reframe them as opportunities for learning and growth. You can review past mistakes and identify the lessons they impart, helping you detach from the negative emotions associated with failure. Tracking progress. Journaling also gives you a sense of progress. Regular reflection allows you to track how you've grown over time, how you've overcome challenges, and how your resilience has strengthened. This can help counteract the fear of failure by showing that setbacks are part of the journey, not the end of it. A simple journaling prompt might be, what did I learn from today's failures? How did I respond to the challenges I faced? This helps transform failures from sources of shame into stepping stones toward growth. 4. Voluntary discomfort. One of the lesser-known but highly effective Stoic practices is voluntary discomfort. This involves intentionally exposing yourself to situations that are mildly uncomfortable or challenging in order to build mental and emotional resilience. The idea is that by regularly stepping outside of your comfort zone, you develop the fortitude to handle more significant hardships when they arise. How it works. Building resilience. Just as physical strength is developed by lifting progressively heavier weights, mental resilience is strengthened by voluntarily experiencing discomfort. This could mean taking cold showers, fasting, waking up earlier than usual, or tackling a task you've been avoiding. Shifting mindset. Voluntary discomfort helps you shift your mindset from one that seeks comfort and avoids failure to one that embraces challenges and uses them as opportunities for growth. By regularly choosing discomfort, You desensitize yourself to fear and learn that enduring temporary discomfort often leads to long-term rewards. Self-discipline. This practice also encourages self-discipline, which is crucial for overcoming fear. When we willingly face discomfort, we build the habit of doing what needs to be done, regardless of how it feels in the moment. This strengthens our resolve and reduces our tendency to shy away from difficult tasks because of fear. For example, if you fear public speaking, you might start by speaking in front of a small group of friends or colleagues. The discomfort of speaking in public, though mild, helps desensitize you to the anxiety associated with larger audiences, making it easier to overcome the fear of failure when the stakes are higher. The fear of failure is a natural part of the human experience, but through Stoic practices, we can reshape our relationship with it. By applying tools such as negative visualization, focusing on what we can control, journaling, and voluntary discomfort, we can not only overcome the fear of failure, but use it as a tool for personal growth and resilience. These Stoic strategies encourage us to take action, embrace challenges, and respond to failure with rationality and equanimity, ultimately leading us to a life of greater peace, self-mastery, and fulfillment. A modern success story, embracing failure, J.K. Rowling's journey. J.K. Rowling's path to success is a testament to the Stoic idea that failure, while painful, can ultimately lead to greater clarity and purpose. As the author of Harry Potter, one of the most successful literary franchises of all time, Rowling's story is often seen as one of triumph over adversity. However, her journey to success was not easy, nor was it without significant setbacks. In fact, before her manuscript for Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, later titled Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, found a publisher, she faced multiple rejections from literary agents and publishers. This early phase of her career was marked by hardship, doubt, and failure. Yet, her resilience in the face of these challenges mirrors some of the core Stoic principles, particularly the idea that failure can strip away the unimportant and reveal what truly matters. J.K. Rowling's failures and the Stoic concept of premeditatio malorum. In her reflections on her early failures, Rowling described them as a stripping away of the inessential. This sentiment captures a key Stoic teaching. Failure forces us to reassess our priorities, clarify our values, and ultimately, get rid of distractions that do not align with our true purpose. For Rowling, each rejection was painful, but also an opportunity to focus more intensely on her writing and her vision for the Harry Potter series. By embracing the experience of failure rather than avoiding or resenting it, she was able to refine her craft. This Stoic approach mirrors the technique of premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils, or the practice of imagining worst-case scenarios in order to prepare emotionally and mentally for them. In Rowling's case, each rejection could have been seen as an insurmountable barrier, but instead, it became a tool for growth. By expecting and experiencing failure, she was better able to adapt and improve, refining her manuscript and her approach until she found a publisher who saw the potential in her work. The Stoic focus on what you can control. One of the central tenets of Stoicism is the focus on what is within our control and the acceptance of what is not. In the face of repeated rejections, Rowling's ability to persist is a direct manifestation of this Stoic practice. She could not control the publisher's decisions, but she could control her own effort, determination, and response to rejection. Rather than giving in to despair or bitterness, she remained focused on what she could do, write, revise, and continue pursuing her passion. Rowling's persistence echoes the Stoic idea that our power lies in our actions and decisions, not in the outcomes or external events. Just as Epictetus taught that we must concentrate on what we can influence and let go of what we cannot, Rowling's journey was an embodiment of this principle. She wrote for herself first and foremost, not waiting for external validation, but continuing to create because it was important to her. The outcome, eventually securing a publisher and achieving worldwide success, was beyond her immediate control, but her actions were. Failure as a path to resilience and authentic success. Rowling's experience also exemplifies another core Stoic teaching: failure as a path to resilience. Far from being a sign of inadequacy, her failures built her mental and emotional strength. Every rejection was a reminder that external validation is not the ultimate measure of success. The Stoic philosophers taught that true success comes not from the approval of others, but from living virtuously and according to one's values. For Rowling, failure became an opportunity to refine her own understanding of success. In her words, "It's impossible to live without failing at something, unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all." This echoes the Stoic belief that living a life free from failure is a life half-lived, a life devoid of growth, challenge, and resilience. To embrace failure, as Rowling did, is to embrace the messy, unpredictable, and often painful nature of life. It is a recognition that every setback is a lesson, and every failure carries the potential for greater understanding and insight. Yakirai, the stripping away of the inessential. Rowling's phrase about failure as a stripping away of the inessential also speaks to another Stoic concept, the idea of amor fati, or love of fate. The Stoics believed that we should not only accept but embrace the challenges life presents, because they are integral to the process of becoming our true selves. Failure, in this context, becomes a teacher that guides us towards authenticity. It forces us to confront what really matters, our core values, our passions, and the things that sustain us when external validation is absent. For Rowling, the rejections she faced didn't just strengthen her resolve to keep writing. They clarified what was truly important to her. As she struggled to make ends meet as a single mother living on welfare, her writing became her anchor. Despite the hardships, she remained focused on her love for storytelling, rather than the external rewards or recognition she sought. Failure, in her case, stripped away the desire for superficial success and left behind a deeper, more authentic motivation. The success of Harry Potter and its Stoic lessons. When Rowling finally found a publisher for Harry Potter, her persistence paid off. But her success was not just the result of external factors. It was the product of an inner transformation that occurred because of her failures. Each rejection, each moment of doubt, shaped her into a more resilient, focused, and determined person. She had learned to separate her self-worth from external approval and to measure success not by the number of rejections she received, but by her dedication to her craft. In Stoic terms, Rowling's success story is an illustration of virtue's virtue over fortuna, fortune. While luck or chance played a role in her eventual success, it was her virtuous commitment to her work, despite repeated failures, that ultimately brought her triumph. By living according to her values, not according to the judgments of others, she found authentic success. The wider impact of Rowling's story. J.K. Rowling's story, particularly her embrace of failure, has had a profound influence on many people around the world. It has inspired countless individuals to continue pursuing their dreams, no matter the obstacles they face. Her journey also reinforces the Stoic belief that success is not defined by the absence of failure, but by how we respond to it. In a world that often equates success with an unbroken path to the top, Rowling's experience reminds us that failure is an inevitable part of the journey, and that it can even serve as a catalyst for greater achievement. Rowling's story is a modern testament to the wisdom of Stoic philosophy. That failure, when viewed with the right mindset, can lead us to clarity, resilience, and the uncovering of our deepest values. In this way, failure is not the end of the road, but a necessary part of the process that prepares us for the success that is yet to come. J.K. Rowling's experience marked by rejection, hardship, and failure, demonstrates the power of embracing failure, not as something to be feared, but as an essential part of personal growth and achievement. Her ability to endure rejection and stay true to her values mirrors the Stoic teachings that failure can be a means of stripping away the unimportant and clarifying what truly matters. By applying this perspective, we too can face setbacks with resilience, see failure as an opportunity for growth, and ultimately find success not in the absence of failure but in how we respond to it. The fear of failure as a misguided teacher. Fear is one of the most powerful and pervasive emotions we experience. It often emerges when we're faced with uncertainty or risk, especially in situations where we might fail. This fear, in its purest form, is a survival mechanism designed to protect us from harm, guiding us away from potentially dangerous or harmful situations. However, as many of us know, this instinct can also become a trap, holding us back from growth, exploration, and the pursuit of our true potential. In the context of failure, fear becomes a misguided teacher, leading us to believe that avoiding failure is the most important goal, rather than embracing it as a natural part of life's journey. The Stoics, who emphasized rationality, virtue, and resilience, understood that the root of fear does not lie in the events themselves, but in how we perceive them. As Seneca famously said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." This simple yet profound statement captures the essence of the Stoic approach to fear. Much of the suffering we experience due to failure is not the result of the failure itself, but of the anxiety, doubts, and exaggerated thoughts we have about it beforehand. The illusory grip of fear. Fear often arises when we imagine an undesirable outcome, a failed project, a missed opportunity, or public humiliation, and magnify it to an extreme degree. In doing so, we convince ourselves that the consequences of failure will be catastrophic and that we cannot possibly handle them. Yet, when we face the feared event directly, we often find that the reality is far less dire than we had imagined. This phenomenon is what Seneca meant when he stated that we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. We fear failure because we imagine it will be far worse than it actually is. We imagine that failure will lead to permanent rejection, financial ruin, or irreparable damage to our self-esteem. However, when we confront failure head-on, we often find that the worst-case scenario is not as overwhelming as we thought. In fact, failure often brings valuable lessons, growth, and the opportunity to try again with newfound wisdom. For example, when we're preparing for a presentation or taking on a challenging task, the anticipation of failure can cause immense stress. We imagine that if things don't go perfectly, it will be a disaster. In reality, though, even if the outcome isn't ideal, the world rarely comes to a halt. Most people's judgments of us are less harsh than we fear, and we often learn more from the experience than we would have if everything had gone according to plan. The Stoic approach to reframing failure. The Stoics offer us a different perspective on failure, one that allows us to shift our focus away from fear and toward personal growth. Rather than avoiding failure, Stoicism teaches us to confront it with courage and to view it as a necessary part of life that can bring us closer to wisdom and self-mastery. The key to overcoming the fear of failure lies in how we interpret and respond to it. 1. Reframe failure as opportunity. Stoics like Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius taught that failure is not a defeat, but an opportunity to practice virtue and resilience. Failure teaches us patience, humility, and perseverance. When we fail, we learn something valuable, even if the lesson is simply that we need to try harder or change our approach. Rather than fearing failure, we can learn to welcome it as a necessary part of growth and self-improvement. 2. Focus on what is within our control. One of the most powerful tools the Stoics give us for dealing with failure is the ability to focus on what is within our control. We cannot control the outcomes of our actions, but we can control how we respond to them. By putting our energy into doing our best, regardless of the result, we shift the focus away from the fear of failure and onto our personal effort. This allows us to find peace in our actions, no matter the outcome. 3. Practice acceptance of the inevitable. Another key Stoic teaching is the idea of accepting what is beyond our control. In life, we will all experience failure at some point, and learning to accept this reality can help us reduce our fear of it. The Stoics did not view failure as a catastrophic event, but as an inevitable part of the human experience. By accepting that failure is not only possible but also natural, we free ourselves from the paralysis that fear can cause. 4. Dissociate self-worth from success. A major source of the fear of failure is the belief that failure will diminish our self-worth. In reality, our self-esteem should not be tied to external achievements or the judgments of others. By internalizing the Stoic idea that our value comes from our character, our actions, and our integrity, we can separate our self-worth from success or failure. This allows us to take risks and embrace challenges without the fear of losing our sense of self. Fear as a catalyst for action. Ironically, the very fear we feel about failure can be the catalyst that propels us to act. When we are paralyzed by fear, it's often because we believe that avoiding failure is the best way to avoid suffering. But by confronting that fear head-on, we open the door to action and progress. The Stoic response to fear is not to shrink from it or avoid it, but to face it and use it to fuel our efforts. Fear can be a teacher, reminding us of the stakes involved and prompting us to prepare more thoroughly, think more deeply, and act with greater focus. Rather than seeing fear as something to escape, we can see it as an indicator of something worth pursuing. Fear often appears when we are about to step outside our comfort zone, which is exactly where growth happens. For example, consider the fear of starting a new business. The fear of failure may cause hesitation, but it also signals the potential for growth and innovation. Rather than avoiding the risk, we can use the fear to drive us to research, plan, and prepare. By taking that first step despite the fear, we not only push through the fear of failure, but also open the door to new opportunities and successes that would not be possible if we had allowed fear to control us. The power of perspective, changing how we see failure. To truly dismantle the power of the fear of failure, we need to shift our perspective. Rather than seeing failure as something negative or debilitating, we can choose to see it as a natural part of the process of learning and growth. When we redefine failure as a teacher rather than a threat, we disarm it of its paralyzing influence. As the Stoics taught, our perception of events is what shapes our experience of them. By changing how we view failure, by seeing it as an opportunity for growth, learning, and resilience, we can free ourselves from the tyranny of fear. Failure, in this new light, becomes a stepping stone on the path to wisdom and self-mastery, not an insurmountable obstacle. The fear of failure is a common and deeply ingrained emotion, but it is also often a misguided teacher. Fear tells us to avoid risks and to protect ourselves from the potential pain of failure. However, the Stoic perspective teaches us that the true source of suffering is not the failure itself, but our perception of it. By reframing failure, focusing on what we can control, and practicing acceptance, we can free ourselves from the grip of fear and embrace failure as a necessary and valuable part of life. In doing so, we can unlock our full potential, take meaningful risks, and experience a life of growth, purpose, and fulfillment. Life's greatest achievements often lie on the other side of failure. Throughout history, some of the greatest achievements have emerged from the fertile soil of failure. It's easy to look at successful individuals and think their path was a smooth one, but often their most significant accomplishments came after a series of failures. From Thomas Edison, who famously failed 10,000 times before inventing the light bulb, to J.K. Rowling, whose Harry Potter manuscript was rejected multiple times, failure has been an essential part of the journey toward success. This is a lesson the Stoics understood deeply and lived by. Failure is not something to fear, but a valuable teacher, a stepping stone on the road to mastery. The Stoics, including thinkers like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, didn't shy away from the challenges and difficulties of life. Instead, they viewed every setback, obstacle, and failure as an opportunity for growth and self-improvement. They understood that it's not the failure itself that defines us, but rather how we respond to it. They saw failure as a teacher, not an adversary, and in doing so, they turned the concept of failure on its head. Instead of running from it, they embraced it as a powerful catalyst for learning, self-discovery, and resilience. The Stoics didn't view failure as a sign of weakness or a final verdict on their abilities. Instead, they embraced it as an inevitable part of life's journey. Marcus Aurelius, in his personal writings, often reflected on the value of setbacks and challenges. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This is a perfect reflection of the Stoic mindset. When we face obstacles, rather than viewing them as roadblocks, we have the power to use them as opportunities to move forward, learn, and evolve. For the Stoics, every failure was an opportunity to practice virtues like patience, perseverance, humility, and self-discipline. By reframing failure as a necessary part of growth, they were able to maintain their peace of mind and continue to pursue their goals with resilience. Rather than allowing failure to define them or their future, they viewed it as part of the process of refining their character and achieving greater wisdom. It's natural to feel fear when we are faced with the possibility of failure. We fear the embarrassment, the judgment, the discomfort that comes with things not going as planned. But, as the Stoics remind us, it's not the failure itself that should concern us, it's how we perceive it. The fear of failure often comes from our own projections about what the outcome will be, not from the reality of the situation. Seneca, another prominent Stoic philosopher, beautifully articulated this when he said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." This means that the fear of failure can often cause us more stress and anxiety than the failure itself. We tend to imagine worst-case scenarios, but in reality, the consequences are rarely as dire as we fear. Often, failure is not the end of the world, but rather the beginning of a new learning experience. In dismantling the fear of failure, we don't just unlock our potential, we reclaim the joy of living. The Stoics believe that our inner peace and happiness should not depend on external circumstances or outcomes. When we can let go of the fear of failure, we become free to take risks, pursue our passions, and fully engage with life without the constant worry of what might go wrong. We begin to live more authentically, more fully, and with greater purpose. When faced with a setback, the Stoics didn't dwell on what went wrong or beat themselves up over it. Instead, they focused on how they could move forward with resilience and grace. They understood that resilience is not about avoiding failure or never experiencing pain. It's about how we respond to those challenges. It's about having the strength to get back up after we fall, the courage to try again, and the wisdom to learn from our mistakes. The next time you face a setback, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this experience? And most importantly, how can I move forward with resilience and grace? These questions, grounded in Stoic wisdom, can help us shift our perspective and embrace failure as a part of the larger process of self-improvement and personal growth. The Stoics teach us that failure is not the end of the road. It is merely the beginning of a new chapter. Each time we fail, we are given an opportunity to reflect, to learn, and to adjust our approach. By embracing failure as a natural and valuable part of the process, we free ourselves from the fear that often holds us back from taking action. As you move forward on your journey, remember that success is not defined by avoiding failure, but by how you respond to it. Every failure is a lesson, every setback is an opportunity to grow. The Stoics show us that it is not failure that defines us, but how we handle it. And by handling failure with resilience, wisdom, and grace, we unlock our true potential. If you enjoyed this video and want to continue learning how Stoic philosophy can transform your life, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss new content. Leave a like if this video resonated with you, and share it with someone who could benefit from these powerful lessons on failure and resilience. Let's grow, learn, and strive for the best versions of ourselves, embracing failure as a stepping stone on the path to success. See you in the next video.